All right. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. We're really excited to have you. Good afternoon. My name is Kristen Torres, and I am a Child Welfare Policy Fellow with the American Public Human Services Association, or APHSA, and we're really pleased to be hosting today's conversation. Just a few housekeeping details here at the top. We will be recording the session and we will make it available afterwards to all registrants in the next week or so. If you will, please take a moment to make sure your mic is muted so we don't have a lot of background noise. And then we hope to have time for a question and answer at the end of this discussion. So please feel free to submit your questions in the chat directly to me, Kristen Torres, as we go along. I'm really pleased today to have moderating for us the CEO and president of APHSA, Tracy Waring, and I'm going to turn it over to her for a few opening remarks before we introduce today's guests. Tracy?
Thank you, Kristen, and welcome everyone to this, what is going to be, I know, an incredible panel today. We're delighted to have so many panelists with us. And I'm sure that many of you on the call today share the awe and the incredible resilience of young people who transition from the foster care system into adulthood. And I'm sure many of you also share in my belief that for those of us working in the field, we know we have to be relentless in our efforts to shift our systems to support youth in driving a positive path forward that builds on their unique strengths and desires and truly promotes positive outcomes. Today, we understand a lot better than we have about what it really takes to unlock the potential in any of us. And I think that, we know so much that in our own lives about how important it is to have hope, give and receive praise, and really be allowed the opportunity to pursue our dreams. We also know, as folks in the child welfare and human services field, that the national data gives us some positive aspects around the number of children decreasing who are entering foster care. At the same time, we know the number of youth aging out of care has increased by 14.6% in the latest data. This increase underscores the need for child welfare agencies to ensure current practices are responsive to older youth and young adults and focus not just to meeting the immediate needs, but planning for their future, and doing so in a way that really embraces the youth in the development and planning for what they aspire to do and be. In an effort to build on the knowledge and the practice within public agencies, the provider community, and the research community, APHSA, in collaboration with Youth Villages, who I know is on with us here today, have been in the process of interviewing child welfare administrators, researchers, youth with lived experience, and thought leaders from across the country to identify best practices and gain a better understanding of how to create a more equitable foundation of opportunities for youth that are preparing to transition from care, really regardless of where that youth resides or what their past experiences have been. Youth voice is an integral part of this effort, and I'm truly honored to serve as moderator to this incredible group of young adults who you'll meet momentarily. Quite frankly, some of the most poignant leadership lessons I've learned over my career have been in settings like this. And my role today is simply to moderate, to let the passion and expertise of this panel shine through. We will not have time for everyone to answer every question, so I'm going to call on participants for specific questions, but we do want everybody to have the opportunity to share. And so I've already encouraged the panelists to let us know if they want to weigh in, even if we haven't called on them, and I'll be sure to do my best to make sure we can hear from everyone. We will leave time for Q&A for the audience, and I encourage the audience, if you have questions, to let us know as they pop in your head, and we'll be sure to come back to them at the end of the session. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Kristen, who was so instrumental in helping us pull this panel together and worked with many of you across the country. Thank you for all our members who helped us secure this panel, to do the first kind of introduction of our panelists, and then I'll take it from there. Kristen.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm so excited to have this group with us today, as Tracy mentioned. I sometimes feel a little bit far removed from being able to work with young people in this space, and so this has been a highlight of my work. And I'll quickly go through the names, as Tracy mentioned, and then we'll go through an introduction round with everyone. But I also want to take a moment just to thank our state and local APHSA members who helped connect us with our panelists today. It's been really exciting to sort of be able to work with members from all across the country on this effort. So we have with us today Karen Perez from Clark County, Nevada, Djanae Hines, or Dee Dee, as she prefers, from Washington, D.C., Hannah Decker is with us from Oregon, Timmy Phillips from Sacramento, California, Ricardo Ortega is from Long Beach, California, Malcolm Hall is with us from Minnesota, Isis Cox from Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, Elena Morrison from Charlotte, North Carolina, and then Helene Halle from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And so we're really excited. And I will ask you, sorry, I was going to turn over too soon. I got a little too excited. But now I'm going to just go through and I'm going to ask you to tell us where you're from, your age, and maybe one thing that you're doing to care for yourself these days, including your mental health, given the shift in our daily life due to COVID-19. So I'm going to start with Dee Dee.
Hey, yes. So my name is Djanae Hines, and I'm 22 years old. And right now, what I'm doing to stay healthy is just working. Pretty much, I have a business, so I'm working more so on that, and then taking care of my son as well. So he's keeping me pretty occupied.
We got a little glimpse of him earlier, so maybe we'll see a little more of him. All right, Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I am currently in Lake Oswego, Oregon. I'm 22. Something I'm doing to help take care of my mental health is music. Music is my go-to, my outlet. I listen to music. My boyfriend makes music. So.
That's exciting, Hannah. Timmy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Timmy. I'm 24. I'm from Sacramento, California. And one thing I'm doing to take care of myself is I've been reading a lot of books.
Perfect. Ricardo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ricardo. I'm 20 years old. I'm from Long Beach, California. Something that I'm doing currently for my mental health and just, self-care is I have been going out with my family, getting reconnected with them. So it has allowed us to find each other's weaknesses and just powering each other. So that's what we've been doing lately.
Thank you, Ricardo. Malcolm?
Hi, everybody. My name is Malcolm Hall. I live in Minnesota. And one thing I'm doing to take care of myself is right now I'm in a season of growth. So I'm trying to push myself more, put myself around people I want to be more like, good leaders, positive people, and also people that that have the strengths where I'm weak in areas. So.
Thank you, Malcolm. Let me just go to Elena.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elena. I'm in North Carolina. And something I've been doing that's been bringing me a lot of joy recently has probably been just spending time with friends as much as possible. They make me the happiest. So I try to spend as much time with them as I can.
Perfect. Helene?
Hi, I am 18 years old. I'm in Tennessee. And one thing that I've been doing to keep myself healthy, I started babysitting just because I like, being with the youth and just I feel like I'm a little bit of a mini mom at the same time. So I love just going out there and taking to the park and stuff. So it's really relaxing on days when I have a lot of stress on my mind.
Excellent. And let me see, I don't know, but Karen, are you with us? No, and ISIS. I think ISIS was running a little late. Are you here? Okay. We'll come back to them if they're able to join us in a little bit, but thank you guys so much. That was just refreshing just in itself to sort of hear things that are giving you life. And I'm going to turn it back to Tracy.
Thanks, Kristen, and welcome everyone. And I was sitting here taking notes because I think there were some great suggestions in there on how you're keeping yourselves in good spirits and contributing to your growth. I think I'm sure we all can learn from. So I'm going to kick it off with the first question here, and I'm going to start by kicking this question to Dee Dee, Helene, and Malcolm. So just kind of to know who's on deck. And the question is this. Approximately 28 states and the District of Columbia have extended the age of foster care to 21. While not all states have extended foster care, most states have independent living supports for young people through age 21. When you think about your transition to independent living, what does success mean to you in this context and why? And so we'll start with you, Dee Dee.
Yeah, for me, I was very optimistic about my transition. I was feeling like I was very prepared and everything. And pretty much just basically I just surrounded myself with a bunch of positive people and role models, worked a lot again. I find myself working a lot to stay occupied so that way I'm doing all positive things and not being drawn to negative.
Great. Thank you. Helene?
I'm sorry, did you call me? My computer shut down for a quick second.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Were you saying that
So share with us a little bit about your own your own experience in transitioning, or what you're thinking about around it, and how having or not having extended living supports to 21 has been helpful for you.
Well, the day that I turned 18 was obviously the day that I came into the extended living program, paid for by DCS, I believe, or a program DCS works with. It really helped me and relieved a lot of stress off my back and my mind and like surrounding me, because the day that I turned 18, I had 3 options, which were either this place I'm living at now, another place which would get back to me in like a couple weeks, or a homeless shelter. So it felt really nice to know that there are programs out there that understand the urgency for kids that have no family who's willing to take them in. And the fact that it can be until 21, which like helps you through those first years of learning to get back on your feet when it comes to a job, and helping you with schooling and providing like computer or some products you may need. They also help me when it comes to like cleaning my house. I know my house got infested with like cockroaches, so they paid for the pest control to come over, and that was really relieving. So I feel like even though there are some parts of it that's like, there's like agreements I have to make, but in the end, I really do appreciate it. The comfort of knowing I have a roof over my head, and just knowing that I've got a place to stay for a while.
Thank you. And Malcolm?
Just to make sure I'm getting the whole question answered, will you repeat it for me, please?
Oh, absolutely. So when you think about, we know actually in the country that 28 states in the District of Columbia have extended the age of foster care to 21. And we also know that a number of states have not, but most have independent living supports for young people through age 21. And so what has been your own experience as you think about transitioning to independent living, and what does success mean to you?
For me personally, my experience, when I transitioned into independent living, it was an opportunity for me to learn how to fail. That might sound a little bit bad, but at the time when I moved out on my own, I was still very immature, but I think I thought I could do everything on my own, and I thought I didn't need other people's help. So for me, it taught me how, you know, I need to be setting certain amounts of money aside for bills and for everything else. And if I didn't do that, I would go hungry. So it taught me how to fail fast, in the sense of, okay, if I blow all my money right away, I'm not going to have any food to eat. So I want to eat. I like to eat a lot. So I had to make sure I had money to do those things. So yeah, it taught me how to fail fast, and it taught me how to get back up quickly. Because when you fail, a lot of times, for myself personally, I'll get real down on myself. I'll start to kind of get a defeatist attitude about things. But in that situation, you really can't like stay in that mindset. You have to get out of it. You have to learn how to get back up. So it taught me how to fail fast and how to get back up quick. So.
Thanks. I think that's really powerful. And it sounds like it really bolstered your ability too, right? So, because it was something you could quickly have the underpinning that then lifted you back up. I think that's a really important piece. So let me move on to anybody want to weigh in here that I didn't call on this particular question?
I just have one quick question. So for the first part of the question, you were saying that certain states, were you saying that they extend foster care instead of from 18 to 21, or they have now allowed independent living to 21?
So there are states that have, actually there's states that have extended it even further, but there are states that have extended it to 21, and then there are states that provide additional supports.
So instead of being in foster care until you're 18 and then moving on to extension of foster care to 21, they just make you stay in foster care to 21.
Well, yeah, and give you independent living supports alongside that.
Okay, so it's not like you're like in a system. It's kind of like the same thing. They just call it foster care instead of extension.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Good question. So how about Hannah? You want to go ahead? Go ahead.
I wanted to extend on her question. So I live in Oregon, and they have extended the age to 21 federally. Foster care can go till 23, but it's by state. So that's why some states do have the option to weigh from 18 to 23. In Oregon, they have extended it to 21, but there are some services that can help you until 23. Most ILP services in Oregon definitely try to make sure you stay in care till you're 21, because you can take advantage of a lot of the resources that the state has, even though foster care here isn't really much better than other places. But there's still the difficulty of trying to get out at 18 because youth don't want to be in care, and a lot of youth will do what Malcolm did and leave as soon as possible and realistically fail. And that's why a lot of youth in Oregon end up homeless, is they don't have the same mindset that Malcolm had. They don't, think, oh, this is my fail, but I can continue to succeed if I learn how to do this. A lot of people will just kind of stay in that rut and keep their head down and not try to go forward. So.
Do you think, Hannah, I think you raised a really important point, and this was not a question we said we were going to pose to you, so feel free to defer if you want to. But are there better ways for the system, in your mind, to engage earlier and more effectively with youth in sharing, the intention behind the level of supports and why they're important? Or do you think this is part of just the learning journey that we all go through?
I definitely think that, your ILP workers, DHS caseworkers, if you have a COSTA worker, can definitely try to implement that into the youth mind. But at the end of the day, it is, the youth all around choice as to if they want to listen to that. So kind of both. Something we're all gonna eventually have to go through, but it's also, I think it would be a good idea to make sure that these workers are actually letting the youth know, hey, this is for your own good, because you have resources till you're 21. If it is extended to 23 in your state. You have this until you're 23, and not everybody has that. You know, realize that when you're out of care, you lose all services. You know, it's not like you can call your caseworker, hey, I need help. Can't do that. And obviously, being a foster care, most of the time you don't have those parents. Hey, I'm short $200 for rent. Can I pay you back? Can I get that loan of $200? Hey, I can't pay my phone bill. We don't have those parents. And a lot of youth are like, I want out. You know, F this. Let me get out of here. I don't want to be involved anymore. And I definitely can personally say I felt that, but I also was able to, you know, have that realization. Hey, if I leave, I don't have this anymore. I might need this and this, you know, trying to get on my own. So I think it'd be a really good idea to at least implement that into youth minds. But again, it's up to them and their choice. You know.
Thanks. And I think Ricardo wants to chime in. Ricardo?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, here in California, we have AB 12 that passed back in, I believe, in 2010, and it went into effect in 2012. And it extended foster care until 21. And then there's another program that youth can go into the age of 23 for housing. The only issue is that here in California, certain counties don't have the capacity for the high demand of these housing programs that we have in California. And LA County is a very huge county that we have about 30,000 foster youth in our care, and it just overwhelmed the system. But there's some flaws within extending foster care to 21. I think some of us are not able to have a smooth transition into adulthood, into independence, and our system has shown that over and over again, that youth are still developing at the age of 21. Some are still going to school. And so there has been some conversations in the state to extend foster care to at least age 23. But right now, more than ever, youth need to know that they have housing stability. In California, we passed with our governor for youth to stay, who turned 21, who can stay in the state under their care for 6 months after they turn 21. But that's not enough. I think there's more work to be done. But I completely agree with everyone who has gone before.
Thanks, Ricardo. That was fantastic. So maybe along the lines of what we've already been talking about, I'll shift to the next question, and folks can continue to expand upon this this theme. But we know that there have been some really innovative programs and services across the country in areas of support around housing and healthcare and job training. We also know that programs are not always easily repeatable right across state lines. But are there particular lines of service or something that might be called a program that's been really helpful to you on your journey that you would very much like to see replicated across the country? And Ricardo, you just spoke to some, but is there anything else that you want to add to that?
What I was going to say is, yes, there's a lot of programs, a lot of resources that are out there for you to access, specifically in California. But the hard thing is, in order to access those resources, you have to have friends who, in our case, we have IOP coordinators. And these IOP coordinators are the ones that control the funding, who gets what. And if you don't get along or you don't have a conversation with this person, they tend to not provide the services to you, or they say, I don't know who you are. And that happens a lot in LA County specifically, because our county is so huge that they're overworked. But a lot of the things is just IOP are the main ones that we have here and that are very beneficial for us, for youth who are 18 and over. But so far, that's the only issue that we have. There's a lot of resources, but in order to access them, you have to face bureaucracy in the system. And we have to face it too sometimes.
How about Elena? Anything you want to add on this about programs or services that you've seen that you'd really like to see much more repeatable across the country?
Yeah, I can speak to two programs or services that I personally continue to benefit from right now. One of them is youth villages. I've been with them since I was 17. I'm a LifeSet or Youth Villages LifeSet scholar now, which is essentially their college-aged program, I believe. But they've been really helpful in helping me envision a future for myself when I didn't think one was possible. When I graduated high school, I knew I really wanted to go to college, but I just didn't think it was possible for me. And my Youth Villages worker at the time, she was the one who helped me apply. She took me on college tours. She was essentially a big sister to me, and I really appreciated that. Not only was I gaining sort of the adulting one-on-one skills with this program, but they were allowing me to go after whatever it was that I felt I wanted to go after at the time, which was college. And now that I'm here, they're helping me apply to graduate school. So it's been really exciting just to receive the support from them. And just their faith in me throughout these past few years has been amazing. And then the second service, I don't know if this is at every state, but North Carolina specifically has something called NC Reach, or Foster Care to Success, which allows any youth who wants to go to college. You can essentially get your university tuition paid for as long as it's a public university in North Carolina. And North Carolina has 16 public universities to choose from. So that's essentially how I was able to go to college, is through this service. My tuition is paid for because I was in foster care before the age of 18, which I think is the only requirement, I believe. But yeah, those are two services that I think were really helpful for me, and I think would be helpful for a lot of youth all over.
Thanks, Elena. That's really concrete and important to share. Anyone else want to share programs or services that they'd really like to see replicated?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dee Dee.
Okay, so we have a program here that for mental health for not only children but adults as well, and it's called Hillcrest. And when I was attending Hillcrest for therapy and other mental services, my workers were very passionate about helping me with my mental health issues, and then they were very flexible, and I was able to like speak to them even outside of work hours, and they were the type of people that like bent backwards for me and did things that weren't even in their job description to make me progress as far as being where I am today and everything. So I really feel like they should have more programs like that. And I honestly don't feel like it's here it's not about like the programs, it's about the people in them, because it can be a great program, but it's all about who's in the program as well, you know, who's navigating the program and who's working with the youth. I feel like that's also another big piece.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
Well, here we have RCYC, but like they do these money talk sessions. Some of them are required, like an open session, and then the rest are just optional. But they talk you through all about saving, about credit, about how to find out what your credit score is. They talk to you about what loan and interest means. They talk to you about like getting a credit card, how to save up for bills, what's like estimating your own bills and finding out how much you pay for just gas a month, or all those entertainment subscriptions that you have. I went to the required one, and then after that, I never went to any of the optional ones, and I'm kind of regretting it, just because now I have not gone shopping for about 2 months, except for like household stuff or my dog's food, because I have learned the importance of what it means to be really careful with your money. So I just got finished paying off all my credit cards, but now I got to pay off my student loans. So just wishing that I had like paid attention and revisited those optional money talk classes would have really have helped me, I feel like, because saving is so important. So I believe that their program, or like just making sure money talk is not just like optional, but required, or even doing like little mini quizzes here and there would be exceptionally great, because here at the program I'm living in, they tell you, hey, you're supposed to give us like so much a month just so we can put it aside for you for when you leave out of our program. But it's not really required. And it kind of worries me, because the fact that it's not required, I don't do it. So then now I'm not putting enough money to save for when I leave. So when it comes to money and saving and just thinking about the future, what you're gonna do with your money, I feel is really important. And that's what I would say, like anything that involves foster care or independent living skills is exceptionally important.
Great. Anybody want to amplify any of that or add any more? Otherwise, I'll move us on to the next question.
Quick question.
Yeah, Malcolm.
Is the topics are like the main point of this for students that are 18 to 21 in extended foster care, or are we kind of giving feedback for more of a broader, like teens in general that are in foster care?
I think we are certainly welcome to any feedback. I mean, our focus really has been on youth in the transitioning place, but if there are pieces that you have that you think are relevant for, you got an audience here, so please share.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest things for me, it wasn't really a program. I never really took advantage of programs that were available to me. I was always trying to be super independent and a little bit prideful. But one of the biggest, most valuable things that I gained from my last foster parents I lived with, I moved there when I was 17, and they really taught me about money management. And what they did was they did this thing, it was like the thirds, they called it. So 1/3 of my money that I made from my job would go to rent. This money I got back when I left my foster home, but I never saw it. I never touched it while I was there. They had that money stored away in an account, wrote me a check when I left. The other third of my money went into my own savings account. I had control of that with the bank. When I cashed my check, I had to be responsible for that money, put that money in there. Couldn't touch it unless I discussed it first with my foster parents. I could have bought a car with it, I could buy whatever, as long as I made that decision and talking to them like adults and making sure I did it the right way. And then I would just bring them the receipt, and they would know that I put my money in my account. And then the other third was free money, and I could do whatever I want. If I wanted some new shoes, if I wanted, whatever, I could use it for that. Luckily, I put most of it in my savings account, so I had more when I left. But yeah, that was a huge factor, and taught me a lot about money and how to be responsible. Because when you do get out of foster care, you do have to pay rent, and you don't get that money back, and you do have to pay for bills, and you do have to try to manage all of that. And that kind of establishes on a small scale of how to really do that once you get out of foster care.
Great, thank you very much. That was a great add. So I'll take us to the next question, but keep adding what you want in the context. I think it's a really rich discussion already. So I'll take this one to Hannah first, and we'll also bring in Timmy and Elena. But the question is that we recognize that there is a need to distinguish services for small children and young adults. And specialized case management represents a promising approach to helping older youth transition to adulthood, because it not only helps manage and respond to different practices across localities, but it provides this kind of targeted services specific to older youth. So have you had an experience at all with what we, I think in our field called specialized case management, or maybe even just specific agency staff that have really been able to focus on your needs as youth and young adults? And Hannah, we'll start with you.
So I actually kind of had a question about what you were saying. You said you wanted to distinguish services for small children and young adults. I kind of wanted to, I don't know if like this could be like a separate conversation that me and you have. I kind of wanted to hear about the services that y'all are going to hopefully implement for small children. If that's a sorry, if that's a conversation we could have like outside of this, by all means. But would definitely love to have that conversation. Following your question though, I had a CASA worker, which is court appointed social advocate that we have here in Oregon. And she was kind of similar to, I don't want to completely puncture your name, but Alina. You had your youth villages worker. I had my court appointed social advocate who was more like a second mom to me. She's helped me out a lot. She was always checking up on me, like always making sure I've eaten, always making sure, you know, like, hey, did you do this today? Did you do this today? Hey, I heard from this person that you were going to have this happen, you know, trying to make sure, basically keeping me accountable. And I really appreciated her and all the work that she did for me. She went above and beyond. And as far as I know, court appointed social advocates are voluntary work. So she went above and beyond for voluntary reasons. And to this day, I still have contact with her. I don't think I'd be where I am today without her. So I think that would be really awesome. You know, technically it's similar to an ILP worker, which is independent living program worker. But like I said, she went above and beyond, and I really don't think that I would have my head above water like I do today without her. So
Thanks, Hannah. And absolutely. And in fact, if we have some time at the end and come back and talk about some ideas you have around what's really important for young, smaller kids, right, in terms of services, we really would love to hear that as well. But let me go ahead and let Timmy come into the conversation and talk about any experiences around specific staff or specialized services that have been important for you.
Hello. So for me, I would say the most important thing for me is I had a one-on-one. I had a therapist who was also managing my case, I guess. So, and when I was turning 18, going into adulthood, he helped me with a lot of things. He got me into the college I went to. He showed me how to do a lot of things for adulthood. He was the reason I know how to do a lot of things, including budgeting and all that good stuff. And yeah, I mean, that's what I'm really thinking about right now, because at that time when I turned 18, I was actually already out of the system, but I was still working with case management because I had a lot of issues, still do. And so he helped me put me on the path that I'm still following to this day. So I think that, and he was a behavioral health counselor, just county behavioral health person who worked with the foster care system. So yeah.
Thanks. And actually that's a really important thing. Glad you added that, because I think that's an important piece as we think about what are all of the different systems and sectors that can be supportive to youth who are transitioning. It's not necessarily singularly within the child welfare system. Why don't we hear from Elena, and then I'll open it up to anybody else who wants to chime in.
Yeah, I guess when you asked that question, I think the only thing I could really think of was, again, my youth villages life set workers that I've had over the past few years, and the one that I'm working with now. I was in independent living but I aged out when I turned 21, and that was over the summer. And to be quite honest, they were not really, that program was not helpful for me that much. So Youth Villages has really been my rock. And even if I'm, working with my LifeSet worker and they don't necessarily have the tools or the specific things that I want to work on. So for example, this year, I really wanted to take, my mental health seriously, and really just explore what my options were, and really sort of understand just health insurance and what sort of health services are available to me for mental and physical health. They will make it, their priority to reach out to the services that they do know, and people that they do know in the community, to make sure that I have those needs met. So again, I think why the program is so successful is that I get to guide it. So I get to determine, the things that I want to work on and what's important to me, and make those my goals each month. So yeah, I think my LifeSet worker has really been sort of what's been successful, or what has worked for me. And other than that, that's really the only program or services or people I've really had contact with since my time in foster care and transitioning out of foster care.
Thanks, Elena. Anybody else want to weigh in with a particular specialized set of services or staff? Yeah, Dee Dee.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to weigh in and agree with Hannah with her CASA worker, because I also had a CASA worker and she was amazing, still is amazing, and not like a mom figure, so more so like a sister figure. And she worked really close with me with transitioning out of foster care, because the foster care program that I was in was split into two different programs for youth aging out of the foster care system, from 21 to 24, and the other half of the other building was for youth in the foster care system from 16 up to 20. So before I got there, I was not even in a foster home. I was staying with friends and everything, and wasn't attending any court dates or anything. So they basically gave her to me, and she's been like an angel ever since. It's just like Hannah says, she's just great, always there for me when I need her. She's always calling to check on me and everything. And I would not be the woman I am today without her as well, because she's just amazing.
Terrific. Thank you. So I think I know we're starting to get some questions in the chat. I'm going to ask an additional question, and we'll come and grab those ones from the chat as well. But I wanted to ask a little bit about, let me give a little context first, and then I'll ask the question. But we know that many agencies have implemented youth councils, advisory boards for those who have lived experiences, and surveys to ask youth what type of services are missing. And sorry, this is what happens when you're on a Zoom call. You get the doggies who come into the room. So how many, and many agencies and programs still largely operate expecting youth to come to them during normal business hours, or to develop treatment plans and make decisions without youth input. And I think this is one of the questions that's really in the chat. So if you could talk a little about your own time in care, and were there flexible opportunities for you to be involved in your case planning, opportunities for you to express your desires? And, if it's yes, give us a little bit of an example. And if not, what would have made a difference for you? And let me start with Hannah.
Well, I'm a very outspoken person, a very blunt person. I get straight to the point and have no problems with anybody I'm talking to in that sense. I only missed maybe 2 or 3 court hearings while I was in care. I made it a priority for me to be at the court hearing every single time, because it's my life that they're, basically, for lack of other words, editing. I I wanted to be there with the decision making. I wanted to be there and like let them know this is actually what's happening, whether, you know, this worker wants to accept it, whether this person wants to tell you kind of idea. And the judge that I had, a lot of people don't like her because she's a very, in the same sense, very blunt person and encourages youth to stay in care longer than what the youth agrees that they should. You know, most youth want to be out at 18, and she's like, no, you need to stay till you're 21. It's a good idea. Stay here, you can't leave, da 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 da. And we'll definitely keep you in check. Me and her definitely got along because I was one of the very few youth that was like, even though I don't like care, I'm gonna stay in care and take advantage of the resources that they continue to provide for me. And it got to the point where like, if my lawyer didn't say something that I wanted her to say, I would speak up. And realistically, for those of you who actually attend court, like, they don't typically like when the youth says something, but I did not care. I was like, I'm not about to let y'all dictate my life. This is not your life that you're living. This is my life that I have to continue to live. And whatever decisions you make are going to affect me either positively or negatively. And I'd 100% rather have it be a positive, you know? So I very, very, very rarely missed court hearing and was always very straight up, very forward to my workers. Like, this is what I want done. This is how I want it done. Let's make it happen. You know, if life happens and it's not able to work out that way, you know, it happens, whatever. But as long as you hear what I'm telling you and you do your best to make what I need to happen, we're all good.
Thank you, Hannah. That was really helpful. Timmy, do you want to weigh in on this one? Are you with us, Timmy?
Sorry, I was dealing with an unruly cat.
Oh, that's all right. I had unruly dogs, so.
Can I be reminded of what the question was, just so
Absolutely. Can you give us an example of your time and care, of opportunities, flexible opportunities that were afforded to you or really involved you in case planning, so you could express your desires? And if that didn't occur, what would have made a difference for you?
So, I will say that I was not afforded any opportunities to give meaningful direction on my case plan when I was in foster care. I had really bad foster parents, and people who and a bad social worker at the time. So people who generally just didn't care about me that much. So, and not saying everyone is, but that was my situation. But because for me, there was the case plan, which I would have liked to just know about. I don't know what would have helped, but with me, I was also in special ed as a child. So when I went into care, they were meeting about also my education, which I would have liked to have some input in on too. And so I'm not really quite 100% sure what would have helped in that situation. Obviously, what comes to mind really is more access to technology, so I could have done more schoolwork. And yeah, I'm not really 100% sure what would have helped in that time, but I just think I would have liked more access to actually being able to give my input rather than just being kept out of it.
Thank you, Timmy. That's really important to hear. Elena, you want to add anything? You good? Okay. Anybody else?
I just want to say, when it comes to, I think one of the questions was about, I think what we call CFTs or transition. For mine, I barely had a CFT meeting, which is kind of like a meeting where you have your social worker, your support system around you, come together and talk about goals and stuff like that. I barely had. You're supposed to have those, I believe, every 6 months. to check in with everyone. But I barely had mine last week because I was going to exit out of care in 2 months, supposedly. But I think in regards to the question of how can we make sure youth voice is being heard, it's always up to the youth to voice their concerns and their needs, because we know what we need, but sometimes you're too scared to ask your social worker, or like you might. When I go to court, I still feel intimidated by the judge, even though she's very relaxing. But I think my relationship that I have with my attorney has evolved over time. He's a very chill person. He checks in on me every month to see if I need anything. But I think it's just we should focus on providing the tools to the youth to voice their concerns, to provide them with the tools of how to advocate for themselves in a professional manner when it comes to social workers, when it comes to your attorneys, or just people in general. Because if you provide the youth with the tools, then you're able to speak up for yourself, and you won't have to rely on a social worker or an attorney to basically be your voice whenever you cannot participate in that. So I'm always about providing tools to the youth so that way they can use those tools to provide their input on the decisions that are being made in our daily lives.
Thanks, Ricardo. Malcolm, I saw your hand, and then I'll go to you, Hannah.
Yeah, I think for me personally, there was times where I wasn't involved at all in decision making, but the times that I did finally speak up were super, super valuable to me. Two times that I decided to speak up. One was when I was about 13. My mom had completed all the courses to get me and my two younger brothers back, but I just didn't really feel like I believed that she was ready, and I didn't trust her in that sense. So I spoke up and said, "Hey, look, I don't want to move back with my mom. I really want to stay in foster care. Can I do that?" And luckily, I was able to, which was for the better. And then the second time was I was about, I think I was 16, turning 17. I was put in a foster home way out of town. People knew that we were in a foster home because of the vehicles we were in. We weren't allowed to play sports. We were really like, people knew us, like we were foster kids. Like it was really awkward, really weird. And so I kind of self-sabotaged myself. I kept getting in trouble so I could move back to the school I was at before, so I could cook and do chase my culinary dreams and whatnot. But I remember I got kicked out. I got placed in juvenile detention for 40 days. And at the end of that, my social worker gave me two options, basically. She was going to put me back in the same city I was in a foster home that was worse than the one I was in, or there was another one in the town that I wanted to be in where I would be able to achieve some of my goals and dreams and stuff. And I really did not like the social worker, and I never really talked to her because every time I did, I felt like my feelings and what I had to say was disregarded. But we sat down for lunch, and I told her, like, hey, you really want me at this one, but I really feel like I would succeed in this other one. Luckily, she picked that one, or she let me go to the one that I wanted, that I felt like I would succeed at, and I ended up doing everything that I wanted and more. I was committed to the best culinary school in the world. A senior in high school, ranked 4th in the country for cooking. I was on the news multiple times, an honors student, never done that before. Key club, just everything you could think of, I was doing plus more. So like for me, when you enable youth to speak up, and when it's actually like something good, when it's not just like something silly, it's really valuable because one of my mentors told me when you put a seed in good soil with sun and water, it will grow. But when you put it in mud, it's not going to grow. So the same thing with people. If you put them in good environments with the good things that they need to grow, they will grow. If you put them in not so good situations, things won't end up well. So
Thanks, Malcolm. That was terrific. Hannah, did you still want to weigh in? And then I'll go to Dee Dee after that.
Yeah, so kind of more towards Ricardo's scenario, I am a part of an advocacy group that's led by youth for youth in Oregon. And I know that there are some states that also have this. We have Oregon Foster Youth Connections. We are an advocacy group run by youth for the youth by the youth. I definitely think that, like, even before I was a part of them, I've always been a very outspoken person. But realistically, I kind of found myself more so in being involved with them. I found my voice and found that I have a very strong passion for advocating, whether it's for foster youth or, everything that's going on in the world right now. Huge supporter, huge advocate for all of it. And realistically, I think Oregon Foster Youth Connections really helped me find myself. And I think that if we could have more nonprofits similar to them, a lot of youth would be able to find their voice and wouldn't have the scenarios like that more per se. Obviously, like, some people are still going to be more shy and more timid than others. That's just our personality, realistically. Absolutely no shame. But, I think that, having those kind of scenarios and programs would definitely be amazing, because you could watch these youth blossom into the potential that you can see that they have. I've personally seen a couple different youth come into the advocacy, regimen, I guess you could say. And, realistically, really watch them blossom and be like, turn into their own person, just being in this advocacy group, surrounded by other foster youth who have similar lived scenarios. And realistically, we get to actually make a change in the foster youth system, foster care system, sorry. And I think if we had more nonprofits similar to this, we'd have a lot more success rate for foster youth, because, you do really gotta kind of get to build a community and a network with other foster youth. And we have had opportunities to kind of work with other states with their foster youth programs. And so I think if we got every single state to have one of these programs, we'd be a lot more successful with our child welfare.
Thank you. That was pretty compelling. Dee Dee, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that
Oh, Dee Dee, you're cutting out just a little bit. At least
going to the coherence. Hello?
Okay, I think we're good.
Can you hear me? Okay. So starting out, I didn't go to any court hearings and everything because I was like 15. So they were not listening to anything I had to say at all. They kept doing what they wanted to do with my life. And even though I spoke and said what I wanted to different or what I wanted to change, they still wouldn't. But it's like, I guess in a way, me not attending my court hearings and everything was good for me, because they ended up putting that CASA in my life for me to be able to accomplish some things that I haven't accomplished without her, So after that, I pretty much was going to court hearings after her, and she helped me advocate a lot better. And my whole team was just like not on the same page. They were all like on different pages and doing different things, and it was just everybody was in their own bubble. It's like we weren't even a team. But when my Casa ended up being on a team, she ended up being the glue to the team, like bringing everybody together and sending out mass emails like, hey guys, we got to do this. Like, definitely when I was 8 out, she was going 2 weeks. So going to be going to, like, where is she going to be staying, all of that. So she was very helpful with that. And I feel like
I think Dee Dee might have frozen up a little bit there. So I'm going to move us on, and really I'm going to open this up to everybody to weigh in on, but you have an audience here with you that is responsible for implementing programs and services that are intended to be supportive to you. And as we've already talked about, you all have a lot of really helpful context and advice, but this is your opportunity to really say, this is what I think needs to change to support the transition of all youth into stable settings that allow them to thrive in the ways that that Malcolm really was just giving an example of. So anything you want to weigh in and say to the folks that are on the phone here or on the call here that you'd like to really see happen and would be impactful for yourself, but for other youth as well. And I'll just leave it open. Anybody want to raise their hand first on this one? Hannah, what is the problem?
I'd love to. I have like a whole list. I'm sorry. I kind of cheated. I went through and kind of put some answers down for some of these questions. Realistically, I don't know if anybody else can relate. I still have yet to ever file my own taxes. I do not understand taxes. I don't know if anybody else has that issue. And I know realistically, everyone has trouble with taxes, even adults. Taxes are hard. Filing taxes, filling out applications for apartments, showing youth, sorry, I have like a whole list I'm trying to read. Telling youth about nonprofits that can help them with connecting to others who have lived similar lives, showing youth how to apply and reapply for health insurance. That is such a big one. And I had to do it on my own, having no idea how to do it. Like, granted, I am very happy that I was able to figure it out. But there needs to be somebody who is doing these connections, like connect the dot type thing. I'd love to see that happen. I have like one more thing. I'm sorry. I like closed out my thing that I had open. Goal setting, more goal setting. I know that we do lots of goal setting with a transition plan, but as we can see in the chat, Ricardo never got that. Which is honestly, excuse my language, that's some bullshit. Realistically, you should be going over a transition plan every, I think it's like 6 months to a year while you're in care. And he said that he was in care for 4 years, just did one last week. That's bull. Getting kids into budgeting workshops at a young age and resume workshops and team building with other youth that are, sorry, I said that already. All right. I'm sorry. That was my tangent. I'm done.
That wasn't a tangent. It was fantastic. Thank you. Who wants to chime in next?
I was just going to say some advice that I would say for the people that are actually implementing these programs is encourage youth to participate in like California Youth Connection is similar to what Hannah was saying, that builds youth into changing child welfare across, California. That's when I started learning about what CFT is, what all these different units are that are in child welfare, and how much power they have and impact they have on my life and youth who are in foster care. I would just say encourage foster youth to participate in those spaces that are available to them. I also have this mentality of there are so many resources out there. There are different programs, different nonprofits that offer different things, but for you to even know about it is very hard because there's no communication between child welfare and these stakeholders that have access to, like in California, we have APHSA that provides youth with laptops and phones and hotspots so you can access your computer work. Not a lot of youth know about that. So there's a lack of communication between the resources and the youth to access those resources. And just making sure that we continue to build these skills of budgeting for youth in California. California is a very expensive state to live in, and there's a lot of homeless youth that are out there because they were not properly trained on how to manage their funding that they get every month. So it is very important that these social workers that we have the power, the willingness to support youth, and provide them with the skills that they need and connecting them with the right resources. I think it's always about and making sure the youth knows what resources are out there and having a strong support group. That's just the main thing.
If I can I just touch up a little on that? So I know here, they have like all these rules about who you can communicate and how you have to go up the chain of command. And like, you can't talk to this person until you talk to your own worker, and then your worker's gonna talk to them. You can't talk to the higher person yourself. And I get really irritated when it comes to that, just because like I can explain something to my worker, but she doesn't fully understand the urgency or how I explain it, and she's not going to treat it with the same delicacy to her manager or her supervisor. She's just going to say like, "Hey, Helene's concerned about this. Can y'all do it on your own time?" Basic type of thing. And for instance, like I just recently got a name change, and my insurance has my previous name, not my current name right now. So like the simple thing I'm trying to do is just get a new insurance card. I'm not trying to change my doctor or anything, just get a new insurance card setting my actual name right now. And I'm trying to talk to my previous worker, and she's like, "Okay, yeah, but we don't do that. You have to talk to Sandy about that," who's like the IL specialist here. And I was like, "Okay, but I can't talk to Sandy until I talk to my worker." But then my worker told me to talk to you, and it's like nobody really knows who communicates on what level. Because like my worker, she's the one that set up my insurance. But then after that, she's like, "I don't know, like if you need to fix your address or something on there, you can't come to me." I was like, "Who do I go to?" It's like I can't even call my insurance people and be like, "Hey, can y'all just change my name and send me a new card?" Because I'm still like on DCS Care. So they have full control over my insurance. And like, I appreciate that. I don't want to get the bills and stuff like that from them. But at the same time, like if I need an address change, if I need a name change, if I need to let them know that I got a different doctor, it takes weeks and sometimes even months to notify my worker, who then notifies my insurance. So I went a couple months before getting my first dental when I moved out of foster care. My first dental surgery, just because DCS wasn't putting just a simple name and address change on the top priority. Another thing for me is the amounts of meetings we have. I'm part of the YV Scholars, EOFC, and LifeSet, and the program I live in right now. And all of them have like this requirement of how many times you have to see them and how many times you have to talk to them and do a Zoom call or something like that. And it's gotten to the point where it's like 2 or 3 a week. And it's like, and then it's not only them, but then I have to talk to my mentors and I have to talk to my scholarship programmers, and then they have to like have me do these surveys and stuff like that. So it gets kind of bombarding when I have 2 jobs, full-time school. I have to volunteer to keep up with my scholarship. I have a dog who needs to go outside. Like I have to wait at like 10 o'clock at night just to take my dog outside because I've been on meeting calls all day. So I feel like the amount of meetings like could be reduced. And I just talked to, and like I know I was supposed to talk to my worker first about it, but I just went straight to a supervisor and I was like, I cannot keep seeing my worker every week. It's too much. I was like, and it's just the pressure of like, what am I going to talk to you about? I just talked to you a week ago, like nothing has changed. And not only that, but it puts on so much pressure, like, oh my gosh, I forgot I have to call them. It's like, then I literally have to take a break outside of my work. And it's kind of embarrassing. Like, I don't want to let my manager at work know, like, I'm a foster kid who has to have this meeting with a foster care worker. So I have to like make up a lie and say I have a dentist appointment I need to go to or something like that, just because this mandatory meeting where nothing really gets talked about. She's just like, hey, how are you doing? I'm like, great. Like, we've come to the point where we've done everything that now we're doing like cooking classes when I know how to cook, but like she still has to say that we did something on the paper. So just in noticing that we are 18 or above, we're not kids. Like, yes, we are an extension of foster care, but we're not kids. We are fully capable of going on the internet and looking up recipes. If we need extra help, we will contact you, but we all don't have to contact us about every tiny thing. Like, hey, did you remember that you have to clean your house because there's a DCS inspection coming? You texted me. I put it on my calendar. I did remember. Stop texting me. Like, it can be so stressful for them to constantly ask you to do something and just treating you like, do you forget that you're in foster? Like, promise you, we don't forget. We don't forget that we have our requirements and the paper that we signed saying we have these agreements to make too. And just the fact that they continuously say to you like, hey, you know, we're here for you, we're listening to you, which is great, I appreciate that. But then if you can, when I tell you, hey, I'm gonna be a couple minutes late because I'm stuck in traffic, but then you get mad because I'm stuck in traffic and can't come meet you, like, I can't control that. I know you have paperwork to do, but I also can't control something that's very outside of my capabilities. Like, what do you want me to do, just start walking on the highway to get to you? And it's not like I don't hate my work or anything at all. I very much like her. I respect her to the fullest. One thing I try to do though is keep a distance between me, my workers, and all those type of people, just because I don't want to think of them as family, because I'm only here for a couple of years. I don't want to go ahead and put myself in that situation again where it's like I found a new family and then you get removed. And it's just the fact that you're here for professional help. I come to you for help. If for the services, I give you all the money every month. Let's keep it at that so then I can focus on my schooling, focus on my work, focus on my money problems. And just being able for them to understand that we are 18 or above. We know what we're doing. We know that we have to be back in our apartments before midnight. Like, we know all that. And I wish they could respect that and not say like I said, just not keep questioning our every movement. Like, hey, I thought you had work today. I am. I can be a couple of minutes at work. That's my paycheck. But don't be watching me outside my house saying, why haven't you left yet? Like, that's creepy. I know. So what if I took 5 extra minutes in my shower? I know. I will tell my manager. I understand. But it can be just like, So for them to just remember that we prepared ourselves. We signed the contract saying we're going to live here and we know what to do. So don't feel like you need to remind us, because if we're capable of signing that contract and capable of getting accepted into college, then we are capable of putting stuff down in the calendar and remembering it. As simple as that.
Thank you, Helene. That, you know, I was sitting there, first of all, I think what you're saying was resonating a lot with everyone. And there's some in the chat as well. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking this is a large part of this, the systems change that has to really, it's like we ask you to both be an adult, and then we don't give you the conditions that allow you to do that. And so that really resonated, I think, with a lot of folks. So thank you for that. So who wants to chime in next with your list of things you want to make sure that leaders on this call hear from you?
I wanted to.
Yeah, go ahead, Dee Dee.
Okay. Well, I have a few things also. Like, here in DC, one of my main issues and some things that need to be changed here in DC would be like the people in the program. That is very, very crucial to a foster youth's health plan, treatment plan and everything. Like the people who, because for an example, I was in a independent living program. Like, I won't say any names because the experience was terrible. So the workers who worked there, like who were with us overnight, were very rude. Like, some didn't really care about our transition. Some didn't really care about if we were comfortable staying there, or if we were comfortable enough to speak to them about things that were on our minds or anything. And then they would like speak to other residents who were also youth about other youth issues and everything. So just simple things like that makes it that much harder for us to be able to do what we have to do, because now for me, I've been through a lot of trauma and everything. So me knowing that this staff that I'm supposed to be confiding in is going behind my back, telling my business to other residents who are also dealing with similar issues and everything like that, it made me uncomfortable. So now at this point, I have to stay to myself, because I don't want to open up my mouth and say anything to a worker about what's going on, because then I'm afraid that it might get around to another. And then it's like, we had life skills groups and everything like that, but it's about how you teach the life skills groups. It's about how it comes off, because like, we have to be interested. And as youth, they didn't have any ways to be creative with pulling us in as far as life skills group went and everything. And it was just a terrible experience. But that is one thing, the people who are working in these programs is one thing that needs to be changed, definitely. Like, definitely. Because we have a independent living program here in DC called Virginia Williams. And I went there and sat in there from 7 in the morning all the way until like almost 6 in the evening. And that was a whole day of just like sitting and waiting. And they just, were not at all helpful to me. And then when they did come around with help, it was just like they stuffed me and my baby in this hotel room that was very disgusting, like roaches. It was like the ceilings were leaking. It was December, so it was also very cold and the heat wasn't working. And then you have to be like pat down and all of that when you come in. They're going through your bags and everything when you come in. That's very uncomfortable as well. I feel like that's something else that need to be changed, because I feel like those safety precautions are put in place because of the people who are in the program. But that's another thing that needs to be changed too. The fact that we shouldn't be having an independent living program where kids and sensitive people like with disabilities and everything like that are in the same facility with like people who have drug issues, or people who are just, not, it should be some type of barrier between that, because the way kids come up, they see certain things, and that can be very traumatic for a child to keep seeing police officers everywhere they go, checking your bags, and you got to get wand, and then the kids got to get pat down too, and then they going through their book bags, and it's just that's not a comfortable environment. So I feel like that's one thing that needs to be changed as well. Then it's just the daycare situation for me. It was the daycare situation for me, because I'm not sure how all of the daycare works in other places, but here in DC we have a whole like standard that we go by for the daycare vouchers and everything, but it's unreasonable because of the fact that like they want us to be going to school for 20 hours, or they want us to be working for 20 hours. But the point of us wanting to get daycare for our youth, for our babies and everything, is so that we can work, or so that we can go to school. So how can we be working 20 hours, or how can we be going to school 20 hours if we don't have any childcare? And then we can't get the childcare if we're not working. So it's not reasonable at all. It also causes another issue because some people don't have a strong support system, so some people can have people to take their child to watch them while they go to school, but others don't. Like, it's people out here who are really on their own. And in a way, I feel like that just makes it so much more harder for us to be able to navigate through the systems and everything. Because we want to work, trust me, we want to work. Like, we don't want to be broke. We have kids. We don't want to be on the streets. So with that being said, it's just like, I feel like that's something that needs to be changed too. The standard for a daycare voucher should be a little less strict. I understand that it should be strict for a reason, due to the fact that some people take their kids to daycare and don't go to work. But for the ones who are actually working hard, for the ones who are actually out here trying to do something with their lives, it matters.
Can I touch up on what she said?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I was in over 15 foster care facilities, hospitals, and stuff like that, for my own behavioral problems. I was just a troubled child. But throughout all of them, I noticed one thing, and that was that after the age of 12, you're put in the same group. So somebody who's 12 is put in the same age group that I'm in. And I felt that was extremely inappropriate. How do you expect me to be in the same classroom, learn the same history lesson as a 12-year-old? That makes no sense. If you're trying to prepare me for college, why am I in the, and that's not to degrade them, but that's like, that makes no sense. That's not right. And I'm like, obviously don't have enough rooms for every separate child, but at least give me a textbook of my own for a 12th grader should be learning. Because in 12th grade, when I was getting ready to take the ACT again in one of the facilities, they were having me do the same World War lesson that I had done in 9th grade in a public school that is now meant for like teenagers. So why, I was like, why do I do this? They're like, well, it's just an easy A for you. And I'm like, yeah, but I need to learn what's going to take me to get into college. I don't need an easy A. So I definitely do agree with Dee Dee when it comes to the age group problems. That is just like a big mess, especially when it comes to certain facilities like the YV program I was in Georgia, where they had one mental illness girl in our program, in our same group as the rest of us. And they had a separate room for military kids, or like kids that have military families, but they can't make a separate group for kids who have mental illness, who need that special IE program, special attention, who need that focus from certain and patient workers, yet they're still in the same group as a fully functionable person, which makes it really hard for the rest of us to focus. It makes it hard for that person to get the focus that they need. And I know like there was several fights that broke out towards that one girl, and it was cruel to see how the workers or the staff treat that girl afterwards. There was one girl, she hit that girl so bad, her eye busted and her lip was like so swollen. And the workers were like, well, she shouldn't have been talking so much. I'm like, she can't help it. She's got a mental illness. She doesn't very well know everything she's doing wrong. And there was like a whole investigation that went on, but they still didn't take the girl out of the group. And I was like, that's definitely not something that y'all can just think an investigation is gonna work. Investigation does help, but it's not gonna fix. If you still keep that girl in that group to continuously be beaten up by other kids who don't understand that she has a mental illness, so she can't control when she might cuss at you for no reason, or she might throw something at you because she's trying to get your attention, not because she's actually trying to hurt you. So it's really insensitive of the staff and like the supervisors and managers at those type of programs to not understand that it's dangerous at that point for kids with mental disabilities or just physical disabilities to be in groups with other or more mature people. And also another one is when I was in another foster care system, not foster care, but another foster care group home, I was also they were trying so hard to get me to be in their program, so hard. They had given me 2 weeks. They're like, you can stay here for 2 weeks. It it was last Thanksgiving, actually. They were like, you can stay here for Thanksgiving. And it's a great program. I mean, you get to go out, you go to a public school, like a legit public school. You have a group home, they have like these therapies, they got all types of computers for you to use. So they try to make it seem like an actual home or like boarding school instead of like a foster care group home. But the one thing I could not stand is the fact that if you trust us so much to go to public school when we can run away, then why do when we come back, you still make us put even our toothbrushes in a bin outside of our room? That makes no sense. That's like me, it's kind of hypocritical. Like, what is your point here? What are you trying to do? If you're going to give us so much freedom and so much trust, then do it to the fullest so we can show you that you can trust us. If you allow me to have some nail polish in my room, or allow me to even have a flashlight in my room so I can read at now when I'm not tired, then that lets me know that you are treating me like an adult, and I will start acting like an adult. Respect is a two-way thing, and a lot of programs don't fully understand that, and they're like, well, you know, you could do this with this item, or you could hurt somebody with this item. It's like, well, you just trusted me to go to school for 9 hours, and I could have ran away, or I could have gotten a fight there and stuff like that. So what are you trying to say? And especially when they like pat you down, like Dee Dee said, in that same program, they patted you down when you came back. They would check your jackets and all that. And I can understand when you're coming back, sure, yeah, I understand. You don't want them to bring anything from school, got it. But when you're leaving the house first thing in the morning, they check you, they put a timer on how much time you have in the bathroom and all that. And I felt that was extremely harsh as well. Because if it's supposed to be like an independent living program and you're trying to get kids from 16 and up to stay there so then you can teach them what it's like to be in school and college, get a job, get a car and all that, then you got to realize, like I said earlier, we are trying to show you that, but you keep holding us back in just even the tiniest of ways. Like, you can't tell me I'm tired and I need to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night when I know that I just slept for like 6 hours that day, so I'm definitely not tired. Can I at least read a book or do a puzzle quietly in my room? And when they don't make you do stuff like that, it's just like you're not my mother, you're my worker, you're the staff. I understand you want the best for me, but you can't necessarily say that this is the best for me and this is going to help me later on in life when you're trying to show me what's to do, but you're not giving me the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, thank you. That is really important. And I have to say, when you were telling the story about the context of, you know, who you're in a classroom with, and having a just turned 13-year-old, God forbid you have to sit in the classroom with a young boy who can't sit still. So I think those are really, all of your points, really important, and thank you for sharing them. We have come, I think, close to the end of our time. So I'm going to actually ask Kristen, can we extend a little bit for anybody who wants to stay on for a few more questions, or how are we doing?
Absolutely. I think I wanted to make sure we at least Timmy's had his hand up for a little while, and I apologize.
Oh, good.
And Elena, give her a moment to sort of, if she has some last words too. But yes, I'm happy to, you know, finish out the conversation if we have just a few more minutes.
Great, thanks. So we'll go to Timmy, and then Elena, you can bring us home. And anybody else have anything to say, put in the chat.
So yeah, I'm going to bring us back to what Ricardo was saying a little while ago about youth not knowing about opportunities or resources. And specifically, he was talking about iFoster here in California. And so what I wanted to say is that I think that one of the things that needs to really be worked on is trying to find ways to get this information to youth, because I have to wear glasses. So it's been a problem, but a couple years back, I broke my glasses because we won't get into that. And I had no money to repair the glasses, and Medi-Cal will only pay for glasses every 2 years. So iFoster paid for my new glasses. And so I think just having resources like that and getting it out to more youth is very important, because iFoster saved me from not being able to see and making my eyes actually worse. So And I just kind of wanted to echo that and say a little bit of my own experience with that. So thanks.
Thanks, Timmy. Elena, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I guess going back to your final question of what we might want to see in services and programs moving forward, I think one, I would just say, I definitely feel like I've noticed a shift in how maybe there seems to be sort of a gender difference, I think, in terms of how youth who are female identifying versus male identifying are treated. And then I'd also go so far as to say that there does, or I have witnessed a difference in between BIPOC youth and non-BIPOC youth or white identifying youth. So I would say that any services or programs who are here or who are thinking about, whatever, reaching out to youth, acknowledging those biases and those inconsistencies in treatment and how they perceive youth especially, I think can be really dangerous if those things go unchecked and aren't constantly held to the fire or accountable in some ways. So yeah, those are things that I feel like I've seen the most in my time, just the inconsistencies and the differences in how I've been treated versus my brother in terms of gender and then in terms of race. So yeah, that's been pretty sad to see, and I would really like to see a change in that.
Thank you. And that's an incredibly powerful note to end on. And I think a call to action to all of us who work in the field to be incredibly mindful about all of those aspects and what we really have to dismantle in the systems in order to create really equitable programs and services and clear ability for everyone's voice to be heard. So I want to thank all of you for spending this much time with us. I know how busy all of you are. We heard a little bit about it. You have so many things going on. Lending your voice in this way is incredibly important. As Kristen said, we recorded this so we can share it with many more people because sometimes people can't access it all at the same time. We will be sure to share it back out with you. And so unless Kristen has any other housekeeping matters, I think we can conclude and just thank you so much for all being with us here today. It was really quite spectacular.
Yes, I want to echo the thank you again too, and we definitely will be in contact. And please, I don't want the conversation to end. I want us to, to continue to talk to each other. And if there's other things happening, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you to all the participants, and we will, as Tracy said, get back with you with some follow-up and some work that APHSA is doing, as well as the recording for today. Thank you all, and have a wonderful day.